Prime Minister Hino Tumfote II speaks up about upcoming referendum on the involvement of political parties in local government and what he describes as a sidelining of traditional authorities in crucial decisions of the country.
Because this is a matter of such momentous importance, I hope all concerned will step back and take the heat out so we can see the light in the discourse.
The national chairman of the opposition NDC is meanwhile calling for the resolution of recent frictions between some of the country's traditional rulers over the upcoming December referendum.
That's deeply worrying because, as I indicated, one of the time-tested traditions and the most revered institutions that has stood the test of time is our chieftaincy institution.
84 more suspects arrested in the Upper West region as part of Operation Tango, a trans-border initiative to combat cross-border crime.
We, those in the local jurisdiction, will be organizing condom and search periodically and to make sure we get these miscreants out of society.
In business,
Association of Ghana Industries back calls for national industrial trade policy to support local content in the upstream petroleum sector.
At some point when you want to promote local content, the manufacturing to support local content is not really jarring. So what it means is that we need to have a strategy of pushing some of the oil money into supporting manufacturing.
And fresh juices from the first fruit processing factory to be established under the One District, One Factory initiative should be hitting the shelves of your local supermarket in some 20 days.
Getting ready for full production. We remember after the trial, you have to pick samples and send to the Food and Drugs Authority. So we have done that and we are working to get a final certification.
Ms. Reliant, Joy News Prime comes to you live from the Joy News studio at Kokomilime here in Accra with digital address G80992539. Stay tuned in. In our first story, Asante Hino Tumfote II has raised concern over what he says is a lack of common ground between the central government and traditional authorities on the impending local government reforms and the December referendum on the participation of political parties in the local governance system. Delivering the 2019 University of Professional Studies annual lecture in Accra on the theme Leadership, Strengthening Democratic Institutions for National Development, he decried how traditional authorities are reduced to mere bystanders in crucial decisions of the country and urged all persons and stakeholders involved in the upcoming referendum to step back and take the heat out.
Our traditional authorities were regrettably shortchanged by the 1992 Constitution in the allocation of management of the nation's resources and in the process of governance. We are rightly represented on the Council of State and given token representation on the institutions like the Lands Commission. In the matter of governance, however, we only have per-functionary roles, even in local government, where chiefs constitute the front line of leadership. It's a matter of concern that the grave issues of national development relating to the allocation of resources and the determination of our national priorities are all determined without the engagement of our traditional leaders at any level. Given our history, our culture and tradition, the weight of accumulated wisdom embedded in our institution, it beggars the imagination that Nananum, Nime, Togbe, Na are all left as bystanders while the real issues of state are decided. I recognize that our presidents have in general tried to find their own ways of interacting with us, and these interactions have sometimes impacted upon decision-making. But these acts of courtesy on their part are no substitute for a defect so glaringly and so unwise. It is the symptom of defect which is playing out in the unhealthy role surrounding the impending referendum, which is part of the government's attempt at the reform of local government under the 1992 Constitution. Local government in the modern era is only traditional governance in Western attire. How is it possible then that the central government representing the modern state and Nananum representing the traditional state could find no space for engagement for the consideration of a major reform of local government and to agree a common position before such crucial reforms were rolled out? If there had been such engagement, I cannot think of how anyone could have ignored the logic of the case for according our chiefs a rightful representation in the new structure. And by the same token, I cannot think of how any chief would have seen any incompatibility in the removal of the entrenched clauses in the Constitution to permit the election of metro and district chief executives or mayors, and also allow political parties to sponsor candidates for local elections. So, because this is a matter of such a momentous importance, I hope all concerned will step back and take the heat out so we can see the light in the discourse.
In a related development, the national chairman of the opposition National Democratic Congress has described as saddening recent fracas between members of the National House of Chiefs over the upcoming referendum on the involvement of political parties in local governance. Addressing the media after the Asantehene Otumfuo Tutu visited former President John Dramani Mahama in his cantonment offices in Accra, he said the unprecedented public disagreement between the chiefs must be quickly resolved.
That's deeply worrying because, as I indicated, one of the time-tested traditions and the most revered institutions that has stood the test of time is our chieftaincy institution. I am quite old, and I can say that never in the history of this country have I heard at the highest level of the top echelon of the chieftaincy institution getting this kind of situation. So I believe that all of them will bring the experience and expertise to bear on this matter so that we can continue to preserve the sanctity of the traditional institution and for them to play the role that they are expected to play towards national unity, national cohesion, and national development.
The Asantehene met the former president in a closed-door session which lasted about 30 minutes. Samuel Ofosu-Ampofo described the visit as proof of the cordial and mutually respectful relationship between the Asantehene and President Mahama.
Everybody knows the stature of Otumfuo in the traditional affairs and national affairs of this country. And so for Otumfuo to have come to Accra on an official assignment and decided, among other things, to pay a courtesy call on the former President John Mahama to find out how he's doing and to have some closed-door discussions with him, and then afforded opportunity for President John Dramani Mahama and his team to also interact with Otumfuo and his team, I think is very, very significant. It deepens the relationship between we as a political party, the NDC, our flag bearer and former president, and that of Otumfuo and Manshia in particular. And it also underscores the fact that there is a very healthy relationship between Manshia and the flag bearer's office, and by extension the NDC. I think for us it's a very good omen because it reinforces the fact that we still respect and revere the Otumfuo's office and his personality and what he stands for, and will continue to deepen the cordial relationship between the NDC as a party, the flag bearer office, and the Manshia and Otumfuo as an individual.
I've noticed you use cordial relationship 3 times in this short 1 or 2 minute conversation. We do know that when the Asantehene delivered his speech at the UN and talked about him prevailing on the political authority to concede defeat, there were contestations and disagreements and arguments over that matter. Was that an issue which was dealt with in this meeting? Did it come up at all?
That issue has already been dealt with. I don't think that issue is there any longer, because you recall that the last Akwasidaya Festival, I led the delegation of the party together with my general secretary and several senior members of the party to participate in the Akwasidaya Festival. After the Akwasidaya Festival, we held a closed-door discussions with Otumfuo and his chiefs, and so I believe that Otumfuo himself at that meeting said that, look, let's bygones be bygones, there is no issue. So I don't believe that that is what has brought him here, and I don't believe that that issue is an issue on the table now. It's now on the back burner because we have very important national issues to deal with. And I believe that Otumfuo's presence is to also show that the chieftaincy institution, which is one of the most revered institutions, we ought to uphold it in a very high esteem so that it can continue to play its rightful role as envisaged by the Constitution of the Republic of
Ghana.
84 suspected criminals have been arrested in the Upper West region in a swoop code named Tango. The suspects were taken in together with some of their belongings, including metal gold detectors, motorbikes and substances suspected to be Indian hemp. Friday's swoop forms part of a 5-day trans-border operation embarked on by the security agencies to combat cross-border crime in the sub-region. Upper West Region Commander of the Ghana Police Service, DCOP Francis Abwaje Nyako, revealed some of the suspects have already been arraigned. Joy News Upper West correspondent Rafik Salam reports from where.
The objective of Operation Kundago, which started last Monday, is to combat crime across borders in the sub-region. The Upper West region was divided into 5 parts for the operation. Security personnel drawn from the National Security, Bureau of National Investigations, Ghana National Fire Service, Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Ghana Police Service, and the Ghana Immigration Service took part in the exercise. Upper West Commander of the Ghana Police Service, DCOP Francis Abwaje Nyako, in an exclusive interview with Joy News, revealed 84 suspects have been arrested during the 5-day operation.
We did Dawn's condom and search. We also went into the forest areas because we had intelligence that people have infiltrated into the forest reserves, and they were even cutting the woods there into firewood, and others are making them into boards. So we raided there and we have made a number of arrests. Golu Tumu, the arrests made were more than 30 persons were arrested. And with Chao, they had more than about 15 persons. With Adole, more than about 25 persons. Laura Tumu, around about 20 persons. And then Hamili, roughly getting to about 15 persons. We had suspected cannabis, machine for detecting gold. That one was picked from a Burkinabe who has come to Ego area to scout for gold. And also we had people who were even trying to smuggle fuel to other areas, to Burkina Faso. So we had cannabis suspected to be, we have suspected and then we had wood that has been cut from the forest reserves and made into boards. Some have even made into charcoal. And also we had persons who were also smuggling fuel to neighboring Burkina Faso and other related items.
DCOP Francis Abwaje Nyako stated that they have already started prosecuting some of the suspects, whilst others are still undergoing investigations.
The screening is ongoing, and we have been able to finish with the screening. And today, some will be put before court. Those who are arrested within Nadole sector. But that of Tumugolu, some have been arraigned before court. I think one was granted bail and 6 were remanded into police custody.
Though Operation Kundago is over, other operations will still go on in the region until the region is rid of all criminals and their elements.
So we, those in the local jurisdiction, will be organizing condom and search periodically, and to make sure we get these miscreants out of society. The Christmas is approaching, and we want the people within the region to live in peace and enjoy the Yellow Tide peacefully.
Reporting for Joy News, Rafik Salam.
The minority in Parliament has accused government of organizing sword-cutting events for road projects which never get constructed. Ranking member of the Roads and Transport Committee, Kwame Agboja, cited the Tamale interchange and others which are yet to materialize. He wants government to rather focus on fixing poor roads.
Mr. Speaker, I want to commend the Minister of Roads and Highways. He's been the most diligent in terms of attendance upon the House. I think he's answered questions more than any minister, and unless he's not within the jurisdiction, every Friday he's here with us to answer questions. However, Mr. Speaker, almost all the answers he gave in terms of making sure our roads are done never get done. Not because he didn't want to do it, because we never gave him the money to do the roads. But the sad thing is that, Mr. Speaker, the finance minister constantly took about 600 million Ghana cedi from the road fund. In fact, if we were to put together through capping, if we were to put together the amount of money the finance minister has taken from road fund is equal to the Sino Hydro agreement on roads, Mr. Speaker. What is the point of taking money that should have been going to road construction, take it out, spend it somewhere else, and then come and tell us that we are going to mortgage our bauxite to get road? Mr. Speaker, we encourage the finance minister. We probably don't need Sino Hydro. The money could have been found inside the how do you call it, the road fund. So it is not important for us to say that as we speak, there's sword cutting everywhere. Mr. Speaker, as a matter of fact, on the 7th of December 2015, the contractor called Rolly that started work on the Jessica to Jessica Road. What is the point of government going there to do another sword cutting? Mr. Speaker, we don't build roads by sword cutting. Mr. Speaker, if you are building your roads, you will see the contractors on the site. So the government should stop cutting sword for road projects which are not ongoing. Mr. Speaker, they cut sword for Tamale interchange. People from Tamale, the Sino Hydro project at Tamale interchange, is it going on? No. Is there any contractor on the site? No. So it's not about sword cutting. Put the money into the project, and we'll see the results.
The Roads and Transport Committee, Samuel Ayepaya, described the claims as untrue. He explains all contractors on the said project have moved to site.
We have to see any road that sort have been cut, that the road is not ongoing. All roads that sort have been cut, we've seen the roads going on.
The contractors are not on site.
Well, unless the contractor raise certificate and there's not enough money for payment, then you see the contractor is not on site. But when we're talking about sort cutting, where anywhere the sort has been cut, there's a construction going on there. I don't understand whether the NDC is because they don't understand issues or not, but the fact is that when a year is declared as a year of roads, that doesn't mean that the roads have been done already. It is 2020 budget which has declared a year of roads.
But the argument is that in 2017 and 2018, these are the same.
That is the more reason why. Yeah, that is more reason why the year ahead of us had been declared as year of roads. It means we are going to spend a lot of money in the road industry. Look, the NDC left us as much as 17.2 billion road commitment. If something is not done about that, there's no way you can continue. The most important thing is that the Ministry of Roads and Highways have an annual budget release of about 1 billion Ghana cedis. So if you give commitment of 17.2 billion, what we are trying to tell Ghanaians is that for 17 years, any government that will come after you should not award any road contract.
Still in Parliament, ranking member on the Mines and Energy Committee, Adam Mutowakilu, wants government to release a substantial amount of money to settle debt owed GridCo to prevent the strike threatened by the company's Senior Staff Association on Thursday. The workers at a news conference warned the country could be plunged in darkness should they go ahead with their strike. Mr. Mutowakilu urged government to take steps to pay off the debt owed by ECG and also dissolve the ECG board.
One, I expected President Nana Akufo-Addo not to deceive the workers of GridCo by saying that he will make sure the finance minister release 250 million Ghana cedis to them.
Because you are told by a chairman that government at some point absorbs some of the money.
Look, they were required to be given their share of ESLA. They were required to give their share of ESLA. Why haven't they been given? When we know in the ESLA report that an amount of over 800 million Ghana cedis was unaccounted for. Why couldn't they account for it and make sure that we don't get to this situation? If you generate power and you can't transmit it to the distributor, you have done nothing.
Right,
and that will only lead to accumulation of more debt.
And that, for me, looking at the critical role that GridCo plays in our energy sector, what do you think government must do to intervene?
One, government must, with immediate effects, release substantial money to GridCo so that they will be able to use it to undertake the regular maintenance that they are required to do. Two, government must ensure that ECG pays, but who owes ECG? It's MDAs, ministries, department and agencies. They owe ECG. So if government pay ECG, ECG will be able to pay GridCo. Three, government must treat ECG equally as they treated PDS. That if their daily amount of 25 million is not met, government will balance up the difference. That was what was given to PDS, and therefore they could function very well. If that is extended to ECG, they should be. But the final one, the board of ECG need to be dissolved.
You want government to dissolve the board?
They are too incompetent. The incompetent is its highest degree, and therefore they must dissolve the board and restructure it to ensure that their promptness and responsive to issues is very quick.
The Kumfi Fruits and Juices factory will be commercially ready in 20 days. The first food processing factory to be established under the One District, One Factory initiative by the Kufuor-led government is expected to produce 300 million packs of juice annually for local consumption and export. Richard Kojonyako has been finding out more.
The structural and engineering aspect of the factory, managers of the company say, is almost complete. Here, workers are putting finishing touches to the work they started almost 2 years ago. The $8 million facility, which officially commenced in March 2018, now has over 400 workers, including outgrowers. Frederick Kobnakwa is the operations director of the factory.
Getting ready for full production. We remember after the trial, you have to pick samples and send to the Food and Drugs Authority. So we have done that, and we are working to get a final certification.
How different is this fruit juice from the ones that are on market?
This is juice squeezed from the fruit itself, and that is all. All that we have taken it through is a process of sterilization and pasteurization, just to give it a longer lifespan. But there are no additives added. We have pineapple raw, we have pineapple with ginger, but that one will also be the syrup from ginger itself mixed with pineapple. Pineapple in the tropic, we have pineapple citrus with passion fruit. It is also the syrup from the pulp of citrus, and then that of passion fruit added to pineapple. So everything is raw with no added stuff.
Inside the factory of the Kumfi Fruit and Juices factory, this is where all the activities go on until we get the pack, the fruit pack. What we have been told by management is that they are into their final preparations towards full production, and they tell me that full production will be in about 20 days, and they are working feverishly towards that. So we are getting to the end of the processing stage, and we can see some of the fruit juice packs that are almost ready here.
From the high K area where the juice goes into the box, it comes through the straw attacher. So there's a machine that attaches the straw to the pack, and then they go through the belt. They go through printing, where we get the date, the batch number, and all those things that have to be added to it, printed on it on the printer, and they walk up the conveyor into this line, which is the packaging, the finishing line. So it comes here, and they go through this cellophane rubber that wraps it, and then it takes it on this belt through this thermal shrinker, ready for the market.
The pineapple juice comes in a green and yellow juice box with One District, One Factory logo boldly featuring on the side. So this is the Eco Juice pineapple, and on it has been written rich in vitamin C. And another one I can see here is that not from concentrate. If you have not tasted it yet, don't envy me. I'm going to try one, and I'll tell you how it tastes. It is very great. But from the management, you can have your taste in about 20 days, 3 weeks from now. Then you can have the Eco Juice on the market for you to sell and buy some. From the Ekumfi Fruit and Juices Factory, my name is Richard Kwejo for Joy News.
Residents of Bole have locked up the offices of the Community Water and Sanitation Agency that which operates the Bole water system in the Bole district of the Savannah region. Residents say since the management of the water system was handed over to a new management team, they have not had water and have currently massed up in front of the Community Water and Sanitation Agency. Isaac Nyonya, correspondent to the Savannah region, joins us with details on that. Hello, Isaac. So what are these residents expecting to happen at this time of night?
Well, they registered at pleasure, calling for the management of the water board be given back to the community water management team that was handling it before these people, the other agency came and took it somewhere to this state. To them, they thought taking over from the old management board would have improved water delivery into the video homes. But that has not changed. To their surprise, it has even become worse from the previous experience they gathered from the community water management board that was there.
And what appears to be the challenge? Do you know?
The challenge seems to be, Savannah region in general has a low water table. But so the Bole, to be specific, was a bit favorable because one German, a reverend father came and put some a system in place that in a way made them to be getting water. Right after the white man faced off, the system was handed over to the Ghanaians. And they started encountering problems relating to water bills, payment of water bills, and then, light bills, and then some managerial problems. That compelled the district assembly, the Bole district assembly, to hand over the system to the Ghana Community Water and Sanitation Limited. They too could not solve the problem. And this to the youth in the town think that if they can't solve the problem, they should reverse the thing to the old management board to see how they can help improve the water delivery in Bole Township.
So are the residents still massed up at the office of the Community Water Sanitation Agency?
Yes, they have left briefly, but they will return tomorrow, according to them. They will come back and move to the assembly. Unfortunately, the assembly will not be there. Monday, they said they will move to the assembly and register at displeasure so that they will come if.
All right, thank you very much. That was Isaac Nyonya bringing us that report from the Savannah region. The once poorly patronized footbridges along the Medina-Denton Highway have seen a sudden surge in the number of pedestrians using it this week. Their changing habit, however, did not come easy. It took persistent police arrest of deviants and lately military presence to get pedestrians to do the right thing. There's more in this report by PSA Nanea Osafo, read to you.
Agitating for the construction of footbridges on the Medina-Denton Highway. Last year, the death of West African senior high school students sparked a violent demonstration compelling government to start construction of footbridges. 4 out of the 6 footbridges have been completed, but pedestrians refuse to use them, arguing that the distance is too long. At least 30 pedestrians were arrested in October 2019 for refusing to use the bridges. But it seems what was needed to solve this problem was a touch of military power. Many pedestrians have been coerced to do the right thing.
I just saw them that they were stopping the people from crossing and directing them to use the footbridge. I was in my shop when I saw the people passing here from the morning to the evening. They came here twice. The first day I saw 2, and then the second time there were 4.
It is good to give, if we give enough education to the people, I think it's far better than to turn the whole thing into a revolutionary, military dictatorship. Then you're harassing people, just beating them like that.
Some pedestrians said they have turned a new leaf.
I think it's right for them to do that, yeah.
Would you say it has been effective so far?
Yeah, I think so.
There was an incident with the police or the military something, so now everybody's using it. It's working. Ghanaians want to be strict on and everything before they work.
So would you call for more soldier presence here if you may?
Yeah.
The people here do not respect police personnel. We need soldiers here in the morning, afternoon and evening. They should beat offenders heavily. They will have a change of mind. But as always, some few people remain deviants. PSN and I Safos report for joining us.
Providing care for sick relatives on admission at the hospital comes with a lot of sacrifice. For such people who find themselves at the Konfanochi Teaching Hospital in Kumasi, lack of decent accommodation means many of them have to brave the odds at the mercy of the weather and all that comes with it. That is the ordeal hundreds of people have had to endure in a quest to keep their sick relatives alive beyond the efforts of the doctors and nurses. Nana Asensumensa has more in this report.
Konfanochi Hospital is the second biggest referral center after Kolebu. Currently, it serves 12 out of the 16 regions of Ghana, as almost all emergency and critical cases ending up here. This establishes the fact that a lot of patients and their relatives from far and near find themselves at this facility. When patients are taken into admission, relatives must find a place to put up outside the premises of the hospital. The opposite, however, is the case as people pitch camp at every available space to lay their heads. So today is a typical bad day for people who live here under this shed because it has rained for the past 3 hours. And people who live here are those whose relatives have been admitted here at Konfanochi. And they have pitched camps here under this shed. At the mercy of the weather, this is where they have been staying for the past 3 months. Some have lived here for 2 months, others 3 months. They are not asking much. They want authorities to build a hostel for them so that at least they can get closer to their relatives who have been admitted here at Konfanochi Teaching Hospital. Sister Bina is one of over 200 squatters at what can be described as a makeshift hostel where cardboards and all manner of materials serve as mats and beds. She was on her way to buy warm water from nearby vendor to massage her sick husband who has been on admission for over 2 weeks, so I followed her.
Ube Jaria, Obeju 1 cedi, Uko private 50 pesos, Ujun Swa 50 pesos. U senior ma, Ahumani yawa different type, yawa 1 cedi, yawa 1 cedi 50 pesos, and yawa 2 cedis dear wo. It's a ma finding it difficult to live here. Every day biasa scan count here, a boying.
Live News investigation reveals a 3-story building to house relatives of patients at Konfanochi Teaching Hospital has stalled for almost 4 years. Sustainable Development Goal 3 seeks to ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all by 2030 may remain a dream in Ghana as public health and safety is compromised. Cross-infection, mosquito bites and harsh weather are among conditions such people are exposed to in an effort to keep sick relatives alive. Gloria Ousu traveled from Seshiyoso in the Western North region describes how she contracted malaria a few days after her 12-year-old son was referred to Konfanochi for intensive care.
Best 4 days because I'm going to ban one compare. We're going to make sure no problem. Now we got to a brand me and I'm jam who told me Kakra. The 2 hours from the day from ban. Don't me dear, we are sand. Who's are there? No, said it. Why we are you? A dream.
Question is, must relatives stay with their sick people on admission at hospital?
And it's all because sometimes socio-cultural reasons people just want to be around, even though it's not their core duty to care for the patients who are on admission here.
Government's plan to see the over 40-year-old, almost 1,000 capacity maternity block completed means increased admissions and arrival of caregiving relatives. So, We threw the question at the Chief Executive of CAT, Dr. Oheneba Owusu-Danso.
We inherited a project that was being done on build, operate, and transfer basis. But the whole contractual arrangement was faulty. And when we came, we had to appeal to our minister. We went through also the board discussions. And finally, we had to submit a comprehensive proposal for evaluation of the Public Procurement Authority. Thanks be to God, we have finally received the blessing. So hopefully the contractor should resume on site. And I think in the next couple of months.
For Joy News, Nana Asansu-Mensah, Kumasi.
The African Center for Energy Policy ASAP is urging government to ensure there's value for money in the selection, siting and construction of projects funded with oil revenue. The call comes on the back of a visit to Dawa irrigation facility funded with oil revenue by government. ASAP says the design for the facility is defective and not likely to stand the test of time. Ben Bwachi is executive director.
And you would know that this is a very important dam for the Dawa community and also the villages around. During the off-season, as the dry season, they depend on the dam to continue farming, to provide economic activity for the community. So it's really important for them. So there were a lot of delays during the construction, which we kept pushing for speedy completion of the project. Some way along the line also it breached, so part of the dam broke and they had to come and fix it. So yeah, generally we're trying to see how impactful oil revenue are, to people and to communities that are receiving funds from it, and also to highlight some of the defects and the deficiencies in our budget process and the implementation of project. And a project as important as this, if you check the quality of the delivery, it's really questionable. It's breached twice already, and it's been fixed with our money. And the way it's actually eating away into the dam, you can see that it wouldn't last in the next 2-3 years. We would have to fix it again. So it fits into the policy work we do to highlight how we can better construct some of these dams to make them last longer and serve the communities better.
Former director of the Ghana Integrity Initiative, Vitus Azim, says he is not convinced about the commitment of government to ensure implementation of the Right to Information Law. At the Safe Accra Dialogue Series organized by the Friedrich Ebert Stiftung and the Institute of Law and Public Affairs, he said partisanship, bureaucracy and lack of political will are hurdles for the full application of the RTI law. Maxwell Agbagba has more.
The 6th Accra Dialogue Series on the theme Combating Corruption vis-a-vis the People's Rights to Information was moderated by host of Newsfile Samson Ladi Anyenini, with former Gender and Social Protection Minister Nana Oyelita, Vitus Azim, and University of Ghana lecturer Dr. Lidu Seidu as panelists. Former director of the Ghana Integrity Initiative, Vitus Azim, urged governments to exhibit the political will and ensure the full implementation of the Right to Information law.
Do our governments have the political will to fight corruption? I don't think so. Do our governments have the political will to implement the Right to Information bill, a law? I'm not convinced, because it took us almost 20 years to get this bill passed. If we had that commitment, it shouldn't have taken that long. Will our complicated bureaucracy make it possible for us to easily access information? No, not at all. Even reports on fire outbreaks are considered secret reports. Are we bold and empowered enough to use the information to call corrupt politicians and officials to account? No, I don't think so. There's too much partisanship. Are we willing to fight corruption dispassionately and without partisanship? Again, I don't think so. In addition, the Right to Information Act has several exemptions. And some of those exemptions, for me, they look ridiculous, because talking about law enforcement and public safety, economic and other interests, economic information of third parties, information on tax. If I know you don't pay tax, or if I feel you don't have to pay tax, I cannot go to GRA and ask, this company, does it pay tax? These exemptions, my brothers and sisters, in addition to secrecy laws, which you already have, are in the interest of the politicians. and they easily sailed through Parliament. There were no questions. Right to information legislation does not necessarily mean that citizens can get important government data in all of the country and that they can use it to demand accountability from the powers that be. The government must therefore exhibit a high level of political will, not only to fight corruption, but to be transparent through the effective implementation of the Right to Information Act, as it will be beneficial to the country.
Former Gender and Social Protection Minister Nana Oyelita wants civil society organizations and the media to help in the sensitization of the public.
At the end of the day, we want each and every person in Ghana to be able to request for information from your unit committee member, from your district assembly, about your water, about healthcare, about education, about recreational grounds. A lot of work needs to be done to educate, to train, and to empower the Ghanaian to be able to request for information.
Political science lecturer at the University of Ghana, Dr. Ali Duseidu, says the right to information law can do little about corruption because there's a huge gap between policy and practice.
Reading the literature, I've come to the conclusion that the existence of a right to information will not necessarily lead to reduction or the fight against corruption. Why? Because there is a huge gap between policy and practice when it comes to issues of the right to information. Now, when you are looking at the issue of theory, there are a lot of theoretical assumptions that we dance around when we are looking at the issue of right to information. And some of these assumptions usually create a little bit of challenges to our ability to implement the right to information. The concept of practical implementation, we are looking at the effective integration of the right to information laws within the context of what? Our existing bureaucracy. The existing bureaucracy that we have, do they have the political will to be able to implement these policies? To what extent is there a political support and then a will for them to actually go about implementing these policies?
Newly inducted Vice Chancellor of the Accra Technical University says urgent re-engineering of the country's educational systems is required if it is to effectively compete in the global market. Professor Samuel Neodai regretted that many university graduates are simply unemployable. He was speaking at his induction ceremony on Friday. Here's a report by Philip Ankra.
The 2017 Ghana Labour Force Survey report commissioned by the Ghana Statistical Service revealed that 1.2 million Ghanaians 15 years and above were unemployed, representing a total unemployment rate of 11%. It is estimated that there are more than 250,000 of unemployed graduates in the country, a situation which is largely blamed on failure on the part of academic institutions to equip students with the needed employable skills, particularly in the area of manufacturing and technology. According to Professor Samuel Neodai, policymakers must recognize these shortcomings and take steps to reform and modernize the academic curricula.
Mr. Chairman, unfortunately, the future of work, dubbed the fourth industrial revolution, is staring at those of us in Africa as we look on hopelessly whilst this opportunity to be part of a global prosperity slips out of our hands, just as the waters in our rivers flow into the oceans daily. Indeed, wasted opportunities on a continent endowed with natural riches, but lacking in skillful custodianship. Ladies and gentlemen, the educational systems in most sub-Saharan African countries tend to master in assessing students in recalling what they hear without developing the analytical prowess of students. The result is unskilled workforce that cannot innovate. Therefore, if they are not offered employment by a company, their world comes crashing down. Ladies and gentlemen, I suggest that we need to re-engineer our educational systems to deepen the global competitiveness and the national patriotism of the next generation.
In his remarks, Minister of State in charge of tertiary education, Professor Kwesi Yanka, assured the Vice-Chancellor that government is considering the restructuring of the national curriculum.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the government's successful implementation of its flagship free SHS program is geared toward the industrialization of our country to propel us from an import dependence to an export-oriented economy. The realization of this goal depends significantly on the proficiency of a skilled labor force from the technical universities and other TVET institutions. Consequently, the government is in the process of resourcing technical universities and providing academic direction through policy formulation and curriculum implementation. As you may be aware, recent developments in our country in relation to job search and recruitment have placed a premium on practical skills and hands-on training of students with competitive edge and global relevance.
Chairman of the school's governing council, Professor Ralph Kingston Asabre, pledged the university's support for the new Vice-Chancellor.
I'm also calling for full support from the staff. Talking about the convocation, talking about everybody who calls himself staff of Accra Technical University. I'm also calling on the student body to give him your full support.
Sir, thank you. And I'm Israelite. Yeah, have a good night.